So far, we've defined a variable of type string, an object, and we've given it an initial value, and we've printed it out. We've been able to get a value for it from the user. And there's other additional functionality that strings have. For example, it has the functionality to work with the plus operator. So I can define a new object, and I'm going to call this one title. And I'm going to give it an initial value of doctor. And then I'm going to create another one called formal. And I'm not going to give that one a value initially, but I'm going to assign it a value. I'm going to say that object formal is equal to title plus name. So notice what I've done here is I've used this operator. And that's one of the ways that classes have functionality, is that they have a functionality created that allows them to work with operators. We've already seen this. Up here we see how it works with the insertion operator, right, where it will print out an object. And that's how it works with an insertion operator. We used it with C and the extraction operator. So we know that strings work with the extraction operator. So it has that functionality. And here it is with the functionality of being able to work with the plus operator. Let's see what happens when we do that. So let's print it out. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to print out formal, and I'm going to comment out this where we get a name from the user so that every time we run this we won't have to enter that again. And we'll just work with the value William Hanson that name has. So now if I save that and run it, then it prints out William Hanson, and then it prints out formal. And now notice what formal is. It's dr dot concatenated with William Hanson. Notice how they're put together, and that's concatenation. Also notice that nothing is between them. So when you add two strings together, it doesn't add space, it doesn't add carriage returns, it only puts what's exactly in the strings themselves. So if we want to have a space there, there's a couple of ways we can do that. I can simply add the string constant that has a single space. So I can just add that. Notice I've got an object, a string object, plus a string literal. That's what this is called, is a string literal. Whenever you have quotes with something in it, that's a literal string, and plus an object. And now when I run it, it's added that space between them. Another way that I can do this is to simply put it inside one of the strings. So up here, I could just put a space right there in the title and say, oh, I always want a space after the title. So I can just put it right in the string itself. And there we have it. And so now when it concatenates them, the space is part of the string. So when it puts those two strings together, that space is included. So it recognizes spaces. So now you can see that string objects have functions that work with operators. It also has other kinds of functionality. One of those is it can tell us how long the string is. So let's go ahead and print that. The length of name. And here I'm going to use the functionality, and this is called object.method is how you do the functionality. So you say the object that you want to use. Notice that I have three string objects. I have name, title, and formal. So I say, well, I want to use the name object, and then I use a dot, and then I say what function, what method I want to use. So object.method, and the one that I want is length. And then this is truly a function call, or a method call, and so it requires the parentheses on it. So there, notice what it is. I do the object, dot, and the method. And that calls functionality that belongs with the string class. So if we save that, and it tells us that the length of name is 14, and if we count those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you want to be sure and count the spaces. They're part of the string. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that whole thing has 14 characters in. And And so it tells us the length of it is. Now, what about if we do it with another one? So let's say we want to know the length of formal and see what is. Then we use formal as the object and length still as the method, because we want to call the same method. We could also do it with title, right? We could say title, and we could say, here we could use the object title. We have 3 string objects. So now let's run those. And there we go. We see that the length of formal is 18. It has those original 14 plus 1, 2, 3, 4 that were added. The length of title is 4, which is the dr dot space. And so that's a function that we can use. By the way, there's another function that does the same thing, and it's called size. And it will tell you what the size is. And it does the same thing that length does. You can use either one interchangeably. So just whichever one you want to use. And it says the same thing. Another operator that strings work with is the array operators. So we can use the cout, the third character. Notice this is just a label, is, and here I'm going to say I want to know what that third character is in the name object. So I'm going to use name with, and there's that operator, right? And that's the array operator name too. And notice I said the third one, so just like with any array, it starts with 0, so I want to know what the third one is. And I can do this, let's do this with what's the third one in title. Okay. And let's save that, and let's go ahead and print that out and see what we get. And there we see that the third character is L, and that's in name. W-I-L is the third one. And in title, the third one is the dot, because it's dr dot. So another piece of functionality that comes with the strings. Strings have lots and lots of functionality, and here's just a few of them.